Well, this could well be the last piece of action. We've almost played 4 minutes. This to level it. We're at 11 points to goal. 10 points Mayo. Robbie Hindley off his right boot. He's got some big high pressure kicks in the past. Can this be another one? Off his right boot. It's gone over the bar!
Super
Robbie Hindley! We're level in Markovich Park. Super stuff from the Mayo goalkeeper.
This is the ExtraTime.com Monday podcast. I'm Oisín Langan, and that is Michael D. McAndrew of Midwest Radio describing Mayo's last second equaliser against Donegal on the opening weekend of the Alliance National Football League. That game played in Markovich Park because Elvery's McHale Park Castlebar is unavailable at the moment. What a start it was to the league. On Saturday night, Armagh overcame Dublin in Croke Park. They hadn't played each other in quite some time, and the Armagh fans celebrated like it was a huge win, which it is, but in context. I'm sure the Armagh players and management won't get carried away, because despite the fact that they beat Dublin, there was elements of the performance that they need to tidy up on. But I was at the game. Well, I was at the second half. The reason I only made it for the second half is because Aoife and I were in the Oval covering Glentoran and Warren Point for BBC Sport NI, and Glentoran won, which means they are top of the Danske Bank Premiership, by the way. Sean Murray, formerly of Dundalk, playing for Glentoran. And actually, on the way to Belfast, we bumped into some of Sean's former teammates, the Dundalk team, stopping off for a bit of a stretch of the legs on their way to Waterford. I actually saw some young guys, and I was like, oh, that's nice that they're bringing their under-16s to have a look at how a senior team prepares. But actually, as it turns out, I looked at the team photo that Dundalk posted following that loss to Waterford, and I realised they were not, in fact, under-16 players or work experience students. They were the Dundalk team. So that was strange. I felt very, very, very old. That said, I am older than most of the managers, I would say, at this stage in the League of Ireland. Speaking of League of Ireland managers, Ian Morris, who presided over Waterford's win against Dundalk, he's going to take some time out ahead of the start of the season during the week at some stage, and we'll bring you that chat next week on the podcast. Anyway, back to Armagh and Dublin. We were late getting to Croke Park. By the time we got there, it was half-time. Armagh were leading by a distance at half-time, and in the second half they drove on a bit. It was a very good performance, but their fans, they were singing ole ole. There was fans wearing flags as capes. I mean, it was championship stuff from the fans. It was a good window for Armagh. Kerry and Kildare drawing in Newbridge. That was pretty dramatic. And the Jack O'Connor derby, Jack O'Connor, who managed Kildare last year, has gone back to Kerry for this season. In most other podcasts, rightfully, they will cover the top leagues. But we're actually going to hear from Liam Gavaghan, the London-born captain of London. London with a shock win over Carlow on the opening weekend. They beat them in Carlow, despite the fact that they were well behind in that game at one stage. We're going to hear from Liam a little bit later on. We'll also have Tom O'Connor's usual roundup of how the Irish did in the UK and beyond. And we've also got hurling. Paudie Maher is back for another season with Tipp. We'll have an in-depth chat with him a little bit later on ahead of Tipp's Alliance League opener next weekend. As always, we'd love to hear from you at Oisín Langan or at Extra Time News. And just before we move on to Tom O'Connor's roundup of how the Irish did in the UK and beyond over the weekend, congratulations to the Irish Sevens team, who were beaten by Australia in the World Rugby Sevens final in Seville last night. They claim a silver medal, which is not bad going. We're going to hear more about some of those players and that team in the next few months and hopefully years. Tom O'Connor of ExtraTime.com, how are you?
Not so bad, Oisín.
Good. Frank Lampard is taking over at Everton. What could this mean for Seamie Coleman?
Hard to say, Oisín. Look, as we know, Everton are in a fairly bad run of form at the minute. And look, Seamus Coleman, he came off against Norwich a couple of weeks ago, obviously, when Norwich were in a decent run of form. We've talked about that before with the likes of Adamida playing a starring role. But Seamus Coleman came off after 54 minutes against Norwich. And then the following week, he was on the bench as they lost to Villa with Duncan Ferguson in charge. So be interesting to see now whether Frank Lampard will reinstate him and relegate John Joe Kenny back down to the bench, or whether Lampard will say, look, you know what, let's go with John Joe Kenny and let's keep Coleman's experience in reserve, maybe for seeing out a game. Or Coleman is obviously, look, we know he's a massively influential figure at Everton. Look, he's club captain. He's played 60 international caps at Irish level as well. He's approaching, what is he, 32, 33 this stage. So, he's coming to the end of his career, but I don't see Lampard disposing of his services straight away. But look, like I say, he hasn't, the last 2 games, he hasn't played the 90 minutes. So under 2 different managers. So it'll be interesting to see. Look, we know Lampard is a great believer in youth. We saw that at both Derby and at Chelsea. So it remains to be seen. Fingers crossed Coleman will play an important role on the pitch. But look, if he doesn't, we know he's certainly going to be a very important role in the dressing rooms and around the club anyway.
And all jokes aside, Coleman seems like the ideal player to work for Lampard, because Lampard was all about putting it on the players when he was in charge at Chelsea, rightfully or wrongfully. Seamie Coleman is all about taking responsibility as a player, and he thinks other players should be like that as well. I remember speaking to him at an Ireland media day a couple of years ago. I can't even remember who it was who left. Might have been Koeman, but he said, well, we can blame managers, but we as players have to stand up and we have to take responsibility. So he won't go hiding, Seamie Coleman. Frank Lampard, I think he might be wise to keep Coleman on board.
I agree entirely. Like whether that's starting Coleman and giving him 90 minutes every game, or like I say, whether it's keeping him with the club captaincy and using him as a strong figure around the dressing room and around the club, who's to say? But there is no doubt that Coleman's voice will definitely be heard as a strong presence at the club. Okay,
let's get into your roundup. What have you got for us?
So I suppose, look, since we're talking about Seamie Coleman, we'll start at the back as well. It was a good weekend for both Mark Travers and Gavin Bazunu. They both kept clean sheets. Mark Travers, that's his 12th of the campaign. Bazunu's 11th, and which is the most clean sheets in their respective divisions. And there are no the strong competition behind them. Like Travers is one ahead of England international Sam Johnson. He has 11 for West Brom. Down the league, Bazunu leads David Stockdale, who's been round the block a few times. His Wickham side have kept 10 clean sheets, and Stockdale has kept 10 of those clean sheets. So, look, it's the guys are under pressure at the top of their respective clean sheet divisions, and long may it last. On the flip side of it, we have a guy who hasn't played since November, former under-21 international Danny Rogers, who was back in goal for Oldham, who are now under the reins of John Sheridan once again. So he kept a clean sheet against Bazunu's former loan side, Rochdale. And Max O'Leary, who played his 6th game in a row for Bristol City in the Championship, as they drew with Preston. You might remember he was last called up to the Ireland squad in 2019 along with James Talbot when Travers was injured and Kevin Kelleher was actually with Stephen Kenny and the under-21s at the Toulon tournament. So an extended run in the Bristol City first team may earn Max O'Leary another look, and look, there'll hopefully be maybe a few Irish scouts looking out at Ashton Gate, because Colm O'Dowda is another one who Stephen Kenny will be keeping an eye on. O'Dowda's contract's up in the summer, but he's become a fixture in the Robins side since he returned after injury in November, and he's only missed one of the last 13 games, scoring once against Blackburn.
It's interesting that you mentioned Mark Travers there, because Stephen Kenny did an interview with Radio 1 on Saturday with my former college mate, actually, Damien O'Mara, and he did name check Mark Travers. And I do like that Stephen Kenny does that. He doesn't talk about players to promote them. He won't mention a player that he's not really seriously thinking about. I don't think that's something he would do. But obviously Travers is still in his thoughts, because he's always asked about the kind of Kelleher Bazunu thing, but he always brings Travers into it and says, well, actually Travers is playing well for a team that are top of the Championship. And I actually think he quoted your stat there as well of 12 clean sheets.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about playing games and, playing regularly. I think in that same interview, Kenny was asked about, is it better lads playing at a big club and not playing as regularly, or whether playing maybe down in division and playing regularly? And again, look, there's your Kelleher Bazunu argument there. And, Kenny, I think, when we talk about Travers, I think Travers was probably unlucky. Like, he didn't it's the quality of Bazunu which is keeping him out rather than anything else. Like, and we're blessed, and I know, look, it's a conversation which a lot of people are having at the minute. We're blessed in the goalkeeping department, but I think another period in time, Mark Travers at this stage might have 10 or 15.
He would, and he's unlucky as well, Tom, because you know yourself, most average football fans do not watch Bournemouth in and out, so they're not watching him improving all the time. They're not seeing him keeping all these clean sheets. All they remember about Travers is the couple of mistakes away in Serbia. So the general public, that's how they see Travers, whereas Stephen Kenny and people who follow football in depth, and by the way, I don't watch Bournemouth in and out when they're on the TV. I do try and watch them, but Stephen Kenny obviously is keeping it, he's really focused on him and the other goalkeepers as well. But it's good to hear him mention Travers because he is playing well.
Absolutely. Look, and if Bazunu or Kelleher or a combination of injuries or suspensions, and Travers has to step back in again, I mean, I for one certainly wouldn't be overly worried because he's playing at a very high level. He's playing Championship is the second highest level, obviously, in England, but he's playing at the top of it. He's not scraping the barrel of it, hoping to get games or whatever. He's a solid fixture, and he's keeping. I think it's Asmir Begovic would have been on the bench there. The sub keeper at the minute, it's gone out of my head.
It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Travers is a regular fixture.
Yeah, we're only focused on Travers. Anyway, let's move on.
Right. Also in the Championship, I suppose. Look, we have Blackrock's Jimmy Dunn scored for QPR. They hammered Reading 4-0, and then we've Darragh Lenihan, who similar to O'Dowda, he's out of contract in the summer, and there was another clean sheet. And look, you talk about maybe people going under the radar. There's another guy, because he's not getting capped with Ireland, he's not in the Premier League. I mean, Tony Mowbray, his boss at Blackburn, is, he makes reference to him quite often. I mean, Blackburn, I don't know how closely, people have been keeping an eye on the Championship, but there's a striker they have called Ben Brereton, and he recently changed his name to Ben Brereton Diaz, became a Chilean international, can't stop scoring, and a lot of focus is on him. But when Blackburn are up at the top of the division, I mean, goals win games, but defences win championships, and that's what Blackburn are doing. And Lenihan is captain, and he's the heart of it. So he's another one flying under the radar. But again, if he were to step up to the play at an international level, I would have no fear. Another one then who came from the League of Ireland, a lot of Cork City fans would be keeping an eye out for Sean McLaughlin, who again is starting to. We've spoken about him a couple of times here, and he's starting to really make a mark for himself at Hull. Hull have obviously been taken over recently, and they sacked Grant McCann after a couple of victories actually, and he was replaced by ex-Rangers forward Shota Arveladze, and yet again McLaughlin started under Arveladze as well. So look, it bodes well for him. Then I suppose John Egan and former under-21 cap Danny McNamara were also involved in clean sheet victories for Sheffield United and Millwall respectively. While at the other end of the pitch, Scott Hogan scored for the third successive weekend as Birmingham drew 2-2 with Derby County, formerly, obviously it used to be known as Frank Lampard's Derby County, and now it's Wayne Rooney's Derby County. And Wayne Rooney obviously declined an interview for Everton during the week. Dropping down a league, over the weekend, we saw Georgie Kelly join Rotherham United to add to the Irish contingent there in the form of JJ Coyote and Chidozie Ogbene. Ogbene was in sparkling form over the weekend as the Millers beat Crewe 2-0 to go top of the table, a point clear of Wigan, who have 2 games in hand. And further down the table, we saw 2 former Irish internationals combine as Wes Houlihan's cross was deflected into his own net by Anthony Pilkington as Cambridge drew 1-1 with Fleetwood Town. Dropping down another league, League 2, Graham Kavanagh, his son Callum signed on loan for Harrogate Town, who we've previously seen midfielders Simon Power and William Hundermark spend successful loan spells there. Cavan is the same. We'd be hoping that he would, adult football would maybe help him make his mark. He came on as a sub there for the last 20 minutes. They lost 3-0 to Stevenage. But look, he's been scoring regularly for Middlesbrough Academy. It's a step up now, even though it's stepped down a division, it's stepping up into adult football. So fingers crossed he'll knock in a few goals at senior level and he'll get his senior career off and running. Up in Scotland, Liam Scales started for Celtic. They won 1-0 against Dundee United to cut the gap at the top of the SPL to 2 points. We saw Ross Tierney starting for Motherwell. He started actually right wing. They played a 4-3-3 and he started on the right wing. And Jake Carroll, former St. Pat's defender, started left centre back for Motherwell. Hearts won 2-0 to put the gap between the two teams to 10 points. Hearts in third and Motherwell in fourth. However, in the Women's Super League in Scotland, Hearts were beaten 2-0 by Eileen Gleeson's Glasgow City, with Claire Shine netting the first goal there. And also in the SPL, we saw Dr. Ciara Grant left Shelbourne to join Rangers. However, their game against Aberdeen on Sunday was postponed. Her fellow Donegal teammate in the national side, Amber Barrett, is obviously playing over in Germany with Coleman, and she scored her third goal in the 2 weekends there on their winter break, but she is scoring a lot of friendlies for them. Then dropping down south into the Women's FA Cup, we saw Arsenal take on London City Lionesses. So Katie McCabe against Rihanna Jarrett. Katie McCabe started, played the full 90 minutes. Jarrett came on at half time for London City Lionesses as Arsenal won 1-0. With Birmingham played Sunderland. Birmingham won 2-1 after extra time. And we saw the Quins, Lucy and Louise, Eleanor Ryan Doyle, Jamie Finn and Emily Whelan all saw game time during Birmingham's extra time victory. Brighton against Reading then. Megan Walsh was in goals for Brighton, and it would have been nice to see Grace Maloney in the opposite goals. Obviously, she got injured last weekend, and she was taken to hospital, was released from hospital shortly afterwards. We wish her all the best in her recovery. So she obviously missed this weekend's game. Megan Connolly actually came off as a sub during the week against Arsenal and reappeared as a 70th minute sub, but it was in vain as Reading won 3-2. Durham played Blackburn and won 3-1. Former Piedmont goalkeeper Nisha McAloon was in goals for Durham. And we saw during the week, obviously, Saoirse Noonan signed from Shells, but she didn't make the matchday squad. Liverpool beat Lincoln City 6-0, and there was a couple of Niamh Fahy and Megan Campbell were at Liverpool. They didn't take part in they came on as Megan Campbell wasn't in the squad. Niamh Fahy came on as a sub. Leanne Kiernan started and came off as Liverpool won quite comfortably there. Everton, their Merseyside rivals, also won comfortably. They beat Huddersfield 4-0, and Ireland keeper Courtney Brosnan kept a clean sheet there. We saw last week on WSL deadline day, Diane Caldwell signed for Man United, and she made her debut this weekend. Sorry, she was part of the squad. She didn't play. She didn't feature, but she was in the matchday squad. She was one of two new additions to the matchday squad as Manchester United ladies beat Bridgewater 2-0, and the other new face was Karna Solskjaer. And before you ask,
yes, I saw the picture. We all saw the picture. That's Ollie's daughter, right?
And keeping with the family tradition, she made her debut as a substitute.
And it was a nice picture as well. Is that you, or do you have anything else?
In terms of playing, yeah, that's the majority of the highlights. Look, as we know, 31st of January is men's transfer deadline day. The women's transfer deadline day was the 27th, and Diane Caldwell, like we say, saw her signing for Man United. 31st is men's transfer deadline day. Spoke earlier about Georgie Kelly's big move to Rotherham, and the week also saw James Abankwah heading to Udinese. He's going to be loaned back to St. Pat's, and another loan signing we saw, or I don't know if it's going to be made official by the time this comes out, but there's a lot of pictures on social media and stuff of Cork man Cathal Heffernan moving to AC Milan. That was brought up originally by Cork-based journalist Andrew Horgan.
Well, Tom, how is this happening all of a sudden, that young Irish players from the League of Ireland are going to clubs in Italy? Has this ever happened much before?
Not to the same extent, I suppose. Like, look, you'd see there's the odd, you'd hear stories maybe in the past of Irish players playing, say, abroad on the continent, so to speak. Abroad, obviously, is England, Scotland, and Wales. But on the continent, and there maybe stories. There's a fantastic book. I'm actually reading it at the minute. by Barry Landy, Emerald Exiles.
Oh, yeah. I got a present of it for Christmas. I haven't got to it yet. It's next up. I read George Hamilton. Now I'm on Keith Earls. Next up is actually Barry's book.
So to be fair to Barry, like it's a great, from what I'm reading so far, like it's a great book because up to now it's been somewhat niche.
Yeah.
Like we would have heard a look as a Cork City fan, you would have seen, Liam Bosson playing for Anderlecht and been part of the Ireland underage team. We had.
I'm just wondering now. Maybe it's just because there's been two of them. All of a sudden, I'm kind of thinking, well, our players now, is there something to do with Brexit that players are going to stay in the EU rather than going to the UK, or is it just a case that we're now technically better and Italian and Spanish and French clubs, or whoever, Belgian clubs in the case of there we go. Yeah. Although he didn't actually come through the Irish system, did he? He came through in the UK, but you know what I mean? Technically, are we producing technically better players, and is that attracting interest from the likes of Udinese and AC Milan? And also, it's not a bad thing because up until recently, right? If you didn't go to the UK, then chances are you wouldn't go anywhere. Whereas now we're seeing these players go, and other players will see that and they'll see it as a more acceptable route. And that's good for a couple of reasons. One, hopefully League of Ireland clubs and the clubs that produced them for the League of Ireland clubs before they went to the League of Ireland clubs will get a few quid out of it. I don't know how the contracts work. I don't know how the system works. For example, I read something about the Heffernan transfer that Cork City will get a fee, but it's not as big as you might think. And also, it's just really cool to broaden the football net, and that it's now not just a case of desperately trying to get to the UK, because it used to be a case that to make it in football, which is a very broad term, people only really thought you did that if you went to the UK, whereas now you can make it in football and go somewhere else other than the UK, or you can stay in the League of Ireland. Look at Chris Shields. He's someone I would consider to have made it in football, yet all of his senior football, or the vast majority of it anyway, has been played on this island. Brian Gartland, another one. He's made it in football. Stephen O'Donnell has made it in football. Daryl Horgan, even if he hadn't have gone to the UK, has made it in football. Robbie Benson, the same. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent.
No, look, I'm listening to you, and I'm nodding my head in agreement with a lot of it. I personally think it's a great thing to widen. Look, it shows off the league. You're not just saying, well, look, we are a feeder league, and the best players are going to be cherry picked and head off to England or Scotland, and they're going to go to the best clubs there. And if they don't go to the best clubs there, it's a failure for the league, because if someone goes, like, even, how do you define making it? It's such an arbitrary term that, somebody could go to England and maybe never play in the Premier League. Look, it goes back to what we were saying earlier on, flying underneath the radar, the likes of Darrell Lennon, the likes of Mark Travers, fly underneath the radar, maybe not pick up as many international caps, but have a fantastic career over there. You've achieved something massive by even earning a contract and spending 8 or 10 years over there. Yet, because you mightn't have your international caps, you come home at maybe 35, you might see a year or two out, and then you're not a success. Whereas, I think we need to broaden our horizons completely and say, look, you know what?
Yeah.
If you're making a career for yourself, if you can make, we talk about making the League of Ireland a business. If you take it just to yourself, if you can make a career that you can stabilize yourself or provide for yourself and your family financially, then as far as I'm concerned, you're making it.
We don't have a football, and it's something I think Daniel MacDonald of the Irish Independent, who's excellent on this and far more coherent on it than I am when he's trying to get his point across. He has said that it hasn't really been a business. Football in Ireland hasn't really been a business. Stephen Finn has talked about it as well when he's been on with us. He's now coaching at Longford. But before he did that, he was a semi-regular guest on this podcast and will be again. Being at Longford doesn't rule him out of that. But he's a man who was a journalist, has all these badges, knows what he's talking about. But isn't it great as well? Isn't it a massive compliment to the League of Ireland that Udinese aren't saying, no, you're not to play there anymore. They're actually saying, here, stay where you are until the summer, and then we'll take you. Now, I know a lot of that is because he has to do, and his parents, I think, and he wants to do the leaving cert But it's still good that they're not saying, right, you stop playing now and just train on your own. Actually, you know what? Work away, play in that league, and that'll you'll be even better by the time you get to us.
But yeah, absolutely. And look, if you look at it on the flip side of that, I'm just looking. I'm putting together a kind of a positional chart for the Premier Division. I think Ronan McCarthy has an excellent one done for the First Division, and I'm working away on one for the Premier Division as well. And I'm just looking at goalkeepers here, and if you look at Drogheda, Shelbourne, and St. Pat's, all three have got young goalkeepers who are on loan to develop their career. You're not looking at, like, Joseph Anang has played for the West Ham first team. Sam Long made his debut for Lincoln, I think, last weekend. And Lewis Webb is a Welsh under-21 international. Like, these guys are not, these guys are researched. And like you...
Yeah. Okay, Tom, we get it. The league is brilliant. Let's just all agree on that. Is that it from you? Is that all you've got for this week?
Just, I suppose, a couple of the moves that may have went under the radar. Kieran Sadley, our ex of Cork City, he left Rotherham. We say, so Georgie Kelly going to Rotherham. Kieran Sadley went from Rotherham to Bolton. Conor Masterson was loaned to Gillingham from QPR. Mipo Odebeko went on loan to Doncaster from West Ham. Leo Connor left Celtic permanently to join Tranmere. And we talked about Aidan Keena at Falkirk last weekend. He's now returned to the League of Ireland and joined Sligo.
Okay.
And Dara O'Connor, ex of Wexford, is now on loan at Queen of the South from Motherwell. And then a move just that may go through tomorrow. According to Dan McDonald, Meath man Jamie McGrath is due to move to Hibernians from St Mirren.
Okay, Tom O'Connor of extratime.com, thank you very much for joining us. This is where we break the fourth wall and spoil the magic of podcasts. Obviously, I played it like that chat with Tom was live, which of course it couldn't possibly be because podcasts are not radio, and therefore it had to be recorded at some point. But just after we recorded, Tom sent me a link of a story that suggested that maybe Jamie McGrath wasn't going to join Hibs. So we don't know where Jamie is going. You may well have found out by now. He may well be going nowhere, but the very best of luck to him. What a talent he is. Tom O'Connor of extratime.com. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll have more from Tom next week. We will also hear from Waterford FC manager Ian Morris. They're preparing for their campaign in the First Division. They're desperate to get back up. They were unlucky to go down last season. They've retained a lot of their best players from last year, but they probably need to add a bit more depth to that squad. We'll talk to Ian about the challenge of signing players and how their preparations are going in general for the League of Ireland campaign. We'll also have a few other guests on the League of Ireland. Now, before we get back to the Allianz League and London's Liam Gavaghan, let's talk about the All-Ireland Ladies Club Senior Football Final. Kilkerran Clonberne of Galway won the currentaccounts.ie LGFA All-Ireland Senior Club Final on Saturday with a dramatic win over Mourneabbey. Well, it wasn't dramatic. It was dramatic in a sense that they had been hurt before. They were beaten by the same opponents a couple of years ago in a final. So it was dramatic in a sense that they've had the low and now they've got the high. 111-117, the final score. Olivia Divley was the player of the match for Kilkerran Clonberne, and afterwards she spoke to Galway Bay FM's Tommy Devan.
Oh my God, I'm in such shock. I actually can't even talk. This is definitely the best day of my life. Like, it's been coming for so long. I'm so lucky to be part of such an amazing group of girls and an amazing parish. And like, anything we want for, anything we ask for, we get. We couldn't be any more supported. And I'm just so happy for everyone that we got over the line today.
Mourneabbey were very much everyone's favourites, bar yourselves coming into this final to put up a big score in the semi-final win over Dunboyne. But you obviously did your work in the last few weeks as well, and you got your matchups very right, and you defended in numbers as well today, which was good to see.
Yeah, Mourneabbey were favourites for the game, and deservedly so. We've played them 3 times before and they've bet us on every occasion, but there was not one bit of doubt in any of our minds. We knew we could do it. We felt we should have done it in 2019. We learned a lot from that game. We were very young at the time. We're 2 years older now, and I just feel like we learned a lot and we got over the line today, and we made sure once we got ahead we were not going to let it slip today.
And they didn't let it slip. Olivia Divley of Kilkerran Clonberne, the Galway team, who won the currentAccount.ie LGFA All-Ireland Senior Club Final over the weekend. It wasn't a bad game for Tivoli. She scored 5 points, 3 of them from place balls. Right, let's talk about the Allianz League. Yes, there was a lot of action in Division 1, 2, 3 and 4. And yes, the best teams obviously play in the top 2 divisions. But there are so many podcasts and websites and whatnot that will cover those games in depth. We want to talk a bit about Division 4 and a pretty impressive story, a pretty amazing story. London coming from behind to beat Carlow 2-11 to 113 on Saturday night. It sets up London for the season, perhaps. Maybe, just maybe, they can have a crack at promotion. They'll be certainly thinking about it following that dramatic win against Carlow over the weekend. But is it possible? Can they achieve it? Let's hear now from their London-born captain, Liam Gavaghan, who's been speaking to KCLR's Brendan Hennessy.
Huge night, especially being out for 2 years with, the pandemic and whatnot. So to come back into the league campaign and first game, we didn't know what to expect. It's a new panel again. So training's been going well last couple of months. So we're excited for today. And, it took us about 20 minutes to get up to the speed of the play. Carlo came out quick. But once we did, then I think second half we drove on, and I think our bench, the lads that came on off the bench made a huge difference. And in the end, we got home in the end.
Great to get the first win, because you can look forward to the campaign now because 2 points on the board.
Yeah, it's exciting now. So we're going to enjoy tonight, and then we'll be back to work on Monday for next week. We've got a tough game in Ruislip against Waterford. So it's a good win tonight, but now we have to back it up next week.
Just looking at the programme coming in tonight, I said I knew yourself. A lot of people know Liam Gavaghan. You're a seasoned campaigner. I think you made your debut against Mayo, in 2011. But a London-born captain. It's brilliant for London GAA, and a London-born manager. So, that's great. I know you still get the lads coming across, and the Irish guys working in London, and London-born players, but great work in London at the moment.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, thankfully, I was made captain in 2017, and I've enjoyed it. And I think Irish lads coming over, you don't know if they're going to be there for a year or 2 years. They could be gone off again. So I think it's key for London. If we want to keep improving, bringing in English-born lads, because they're going to be there for 10 years, and you can build a team around that. So I'm still enjoying it. I'm loving every minute of it, and I'm looking forward to next week again now.
Still a win against Waterford, 4 points. London opening 2 games, not a bad start, but that's another match. You'll worry about that next week.
Yeah, exactly. Today's game. We worried about that, and we got over the line, and exactly next week it's a total different game. Waterford, a different team, different style. So we're looking forward to it. We'll go back to training during the week, and we'll be ready for next Sunday.
Now that you're leaving Carlow with 2 points, what did you do in the 22 months? Did you have a few matches? Could you do anything together? I know it was strict in London as well, but did you get to do anything at all?
No, it was very tough to do anything really. Most lads were back with their clubs, and we got a club campaign in the last couple of years. But in terms of London, no, we didn't really do much. And I think the panel that's there, I think there's only 13 of us left from before COVID in 2020, so it's a huge turnaround again, but it's exciting. There's a lot of good footballers there, and we're gelling every training session, so looking forward to the rest of the year now.
Okay, and how was things in Tyrconnell, Gales, and in Greenford? I know you're a Greenford man. I think I was up around that neck of the woods and we had a few great nights in Ruislip also. How are things in Greenford?
Yeah, Greenford, born and bred. So everything's going well in Greenford. So again, we have a good structure there at the club, and we have an English-born team that's developing the whole time an underage system, and we're all trying to push through to the senior. And it's going well, and we're always trying to build and build. So
well, listen, well done in Carlow tonight. Congratulations on your win. Safe journey home, and I look forward to seeing you in the not too distant future. Liam, great to catch up with you in Carlow again tonight.
Yeah, lovely. Thanks a lot.
Liam Gavaghan of London, the London-born captain of London. It used to be a case that with London, you'd very rarely have a London-born player on the London team. It was generally emigrants, but now there's more and more London-born players playing for London. Next up for them, Waterford in Ruislip next weekend. Waterford getting a draw with Tipperary on the opening weekend. Tipperary away to Leitrim. Sligo taking on Carlow in what I'll call the Niall Carew derby, because Niall Carew is in charge of Carlow, but he used to be in charge of Sligo. That's almost it from us, but before we go, let's talk hurling. Paudie Maher once again involved with Tipperary this season. They opened their Allianz League campaign against Laois next weekend, and I caught up with him recently as FBD and Semple Stadium announced their partnership. It will now be known as FBD Semple Stadium. I put it to Paudie that the people of Thurles, and keep in mind Paudie grew up in Thurles, the people of Thurles don't seem to mind that the stadium is there. They don't seem to mind that the town is regularly full of people on match days, and they don't see it as an inconvenience. This is what he had to say about that.
Yeah, I suppose there's a lot of a lot of members, community up around Seamie Stadium and around Kennedy Park and Children's Park and areas like that, and Bourne and Ave. And I think they just they love the days. And, as you said there, usually the crowds of people coming around your homes, people might irk them and small, but I think the people around here love it, and they embrace it and enjoy it because the atmosphere and the sense of community and, the GA community coming around the stadium. It's a great feeling there for a weekend, in May, June, July. It's a good summer Sunday afternoon. There's nothing like it around. So, I think everyone jumps in the bandwagon for it, no matter who's playing. They just become supporters of that day. And, more often than not, it's Munster Championship Day. So, it is great. And we're just lucky enough that it is in Thurles, and we're proud that it's in Thurles as well.
And what are your own favourite memories of playing at the stadium?
Yeah, I have a lot of great memories, thank God. There, one or two losses, all right, that be kind of disappointing, but more often than not, I can't really complain. Really, I've had a lot of great days in now FBD Seamie Stadium, both with my club and with Tipperary. And I have to say, I got to win a Munster final. I got to win 2 Munster finals in Thurles with Tipperary, and that it's not often that happens, because more often than not they're played at neutral grounds. But for whatever reason, they were played in Thurles in them days, and so they're special memories in a Tipperary jersey for me. And I got to win a few county finals there as well with my club. They're memories I'll never forget. So, great to be involved in them days, and hopefully 1 or 2 more of them days to come before I hang up the boots. And obviously I look forward to, it's only next door to us here, so I look forward to going there many days supporter as well down the line.
And Thurles is kind of strange, because I never think of it as an away game if I'm following my own county, Waterford, there, because it's the home of Gaelic games in many ways, so you don't ever mind going there. And my county's had great days there, and Clare and Limerick and Cork, they've all had great days there. So do you and Tipp mind that we don't really see it as Tipp's venue? We see it as a kind of a neutral ground, a mecca for the sport.
Yeah, sure. I suppose going back over the years, you think about it, the likes of Waterford and Cork probably played there more times than Tipperary have in championship years, because obviously the neutral venues, they play neutral venues there, and likewise at Limerick and Clare. So you recently with the round robin that we kind of get the home and away side of things. But as I said, outside of Croke Park, you ask Cork hurlers or Waterford hurlers, even some of the Clare lads, they probably say that Thurles is their favourite venue. So it's a great pitch up there, and the lads look after it very well. And as I said to you, it's just part of the GAA. Now it's, they mentioned Croke Park in Ireland, but you nearly mentioned Seamie Stadium straight after it, So, we're just, again, so lucky to have it here. And, we're just blessed. And as I said to you, it's exciting now that it has the new name with FBD as well, that going forward, it makes it kind of refreshed again, and it'll help it progress even further than what it really is at the moment.
And Park, you're back for another season with Tipperary. Is that something that you had to think about, or was it something that just happened automatically? You didn't even have to think, you didn't even have to consider, you just said, if they'll have me back, I'm going back?
I suppose I was just kind of had in my head that I played out the club championship and see how I get on and see how I feel, and most importantly, I suppose, make sure that I'm performing to a level that's good enough to be involved in Tipperary setup. So I'm happy enough. I didn't really have to think too much about it. Once my body's 100% and feeling good, I'm happy enough to go back and give another crack. And I still think I have something to offer the set up inside. And hopefully I can do that. Whatever role that is, I don't know yet. I'll try my best to give 100% like I've always done since I started. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm very much looking forward to it now again, yeah. And
do you have a dual role this season? Because there's going to be a lot of younger faces around the Tipperary panel, and a lot of guys who maybe haven't played a whole pile of senior inter-county hurling. So do you have 2 roles? 1, to try your best to get on the team and play as well as you can, and 2, to try and mentor these guys and help bring them through? Yeah,
definitely. Look, you're there. Obviously, I'm one of the most experienced lads there, so I suppose I have a bit of a duty there to help the younger lads through, no matter what way they need it, whether it's, a word in their ear if they want to chat about something, or, whether it's just me training to a high standard that they can see that, this is the standard they need to train at, or, anything like that. Or at the end of the day, I still want to play and be on the team and try and perform as best I can and help the team. So that's the number one focus. Why I'm there is to try. I still feel I have something to offer, but obviously I want to be there too to help the younger lads through. And they've had a successful underage career, and hopefully they can progress down to the senior stage now, and we can all as one help the county progress further.
Paudie, there's probably moments in every season that you think back on, whether a season went well or whether a season went badly, and those moments can be a second or a minute, or in this case just over 35 minutes. The second half against Limerick, it just went downhill, unfortunately, having had a great first half. Do you think about that? Do you kind of think, well, why couldn't we do what we did in the first half and the second half? Or how do you reflect on it?
Yeah, I suppose, look, we performed very well in the first half that day. I think everything was going well for us. We were well on top, I think, in all areas of the pitch. And it was just disappointing in the second half that we didn't even, not even to perform to the same level, but, use our experience in ways, or slow the game down, or, throw a spanner in the works some way that kind of threw Limerick off their momentum, because they got that match back in 15, 20 minutes. It wasn't as if it took them the whole second half to get it back. That match turned around fairly quick. So, look, it's disappointing in that sense of the word. But, yeah, look, there's plenty of learnings there. There was a lot of young lads still involved in the panel that day, so hopefully they learn too. And, I suppose it's been about being more consistent, throughout games, not just showing flashes of, even last year, the Clare game, we were slow to start, but then we got going, and so you'd like to be more consistent throughout games. But look, the beauty of this new layout, or the layout that was before, we're playing 4, 5, 6 National League games and straight into the Championship, so there's plenty of opportunities there for lads to put their hand up to be on the team, on the panel, and then obviously for us to put together a good squad that, that we can and play it the way we want to play it. There's plenty of opportunities there, and that's the beauty of this new system. And you have to be firing all cylinders 4 times in the Championship, not just once or twice. You have to be in 4 times, so it is it's exciting, it's daunting, but that's what we're training for, and that's what we would live for, playing the games and playing games to high standard.
And Park, you have an awful lot won. It's 3 All-Ireland medals, right?
That's right, yeah.
So that suggests to me that you would not be back this season, knowing all the hard work that an inter-county season entails. You wouldn't be back unless you thought to yourself, this team and this county can compete.
Oh yeah, sure. Look, you're not going to, you're not. I wouldn't be taking part unless I knew we had a chance of being successful. I think that's always demanded of us in Tipperary anyway, that you should never be too far away from the top of the tree. But again, there's a lot of hard work involved. As a couple of you have mentioned, that we are in the development phase of bringing new players on, and that's fine. You need that, and you need to progress the group on by bringing younger players through. But at the end of the day, we're still successful young players, and I know them young lads, they think they should be thereabouts as well. So, look, I wouldn't be going back anyway myself if I didn't think we had a chance of winning some silverware. So, it's everyone starts from scratch at the start of the year, and look, Limerick are ahead of everyone else at the moment, but it's up to everyone else to kind of step up to the mark and see can they overtake them, I suppose.
And you seem to have picked up on people using the word development around this Tipperary team. Yes, there's a lot of young faces, but it seems to be a case that you're saying, this is not the Tipperary development team, this is the Tipperary team.
Yeah, look, every team, I suppose, has to develop every so often. You have to progress 1 or 2 players on every year, but we'd still expect, no matter who's playing, that they're good enough, and that shouldn't take from the performance of the team or the way the team is going to perform in the year. We still expect to be involved in the latter stage of the Munster Championship. We still expect to be involved in the latter stage of the All-Ireland Championship. And as I said to one of the lads earlier on, we Tipperary haven't hurled in Croke Park since 2000 and since the All-Ireland 2019, if I'm right. So, we haven't even got to the latter stage of the championship. So, that's what we want. That's probably a name now at the moment, just to get back to that stage and put your name in the hat for the later on the championship. And that's another. There's younger lads involved, but they've been there the last year or two, so they know what's involved, and hopefully they can step up to the mark along with those experienced lads.
OK, well, Paudie Maher, Tipperary hurler, thanks for joining us at the announcement of the new naming rights partnership between FBD Insurance, Ireland's largest homegrown insurer, and Tipperary's Semple Stadium. The 5-year deal will see the stadium renamed as FBD Semple Stadium. Paudie, thank you.
Thanks a million.
That's it for the extratime.com Monday podcast. Remember, you can talk to us via Twitter at Oisín Langan or at Extra Time News. The League of Ireland season is getting closer all the time, and the website will have a lot more material in the build up to it. And as I say, we'll have a lot more material next week on the League of Ireland season, including an interview with Waterford FC's Ian Morris and a few other bits and pieces. But for now, that's it. Have a good week. I'll talk to you soon.